Yawn. Australia in another World Cup final, wrote ESPN Cricinfo. Damn right, but we're probably going to get smashed in this one. Charbel here, Australia fan. A bit tired, as you can tell, up until the ridiculous hours of the morning, but it was worth it. Got home in the end. A bit of cricketing heritage, beating South Africa in the semi-final. But truth be told, my commiserations go out to the fans for the Proteas. It must be really painful to fall short again. But for Australia, we're through to another final. I didn't know whether we'd get here, but certainly expected India to be there, and they're there, and they're certainly the favourites. Nash, India fan, looking very happy at the moment yourself. How's things? Talk to me.
Really happy, really excited. It's going to be a cracker of a game. If it was South Africa, it would have
Hope
been
so.
one. It would have been one-sided for India, I want to say. But since it's Australia, it might be close. But I'm obviously gunning for India, and I see that you're positive as well for India. So I think, and that's one thing that hasn't been spoken enough by various biased media houses, journalists, and whatnot, is India have been just dominant, and there's no other way to put it. It's
Yep.
nothing to do with the crowds, nothing to do with the pitches, nothing to do with the conditions, nothing to do with the ODI cricket is getting boring. It's nothing to do with anything else. They
Everything's
just,
been set up for India to win. Everything's been set up. The script.
I mean, India, and that's the problem, isn't it? The hatred is so deep, runs so deep that you cannot give credit to the players. The 11, 12, 13 players that have they've given everything on the field. The way they are playing cricket, I put out a tweet saying you can't compare, teams and players. I'm not comparing here, but it is similar to what Australia did in 2003 and 2007. 2003, they had more close games. When they were down in the dumps, there was
Yep.
someone stepping up, whether it's Andy Bicker
Yep.
against New Zealand, whether it's Andrew
Bevan.
Simons on various occasions. But 2007
Michael
was
Bevan as
dominant,
well. Mm.
just blew everyone out of the park. And that's what this team is doing. It's nothing, it just baffles me that there's one team playing such dominant cricket that everyone has to put out agendas and narratives to bring them down. I mean, and it has to be said. It is just brazen how English and Australian journalists and even Indian journalists have just been absolutely nothing but shambles when it comes to just praising another team. English journalists more than anyone else, because they can't bear the fact that they are just not good.
Could you imagine if England produced this sort of World Cup campaign at home on their own
Oh,
pitches?
oh, yeah,
I
they have
don't think.
changed
I don't
ODI
think.
cricket. They've changed cricket with
Yeah,
the headlines.
yeah. They've done well in Test cricket for 18 months, and they've got a book out now of how they've revolutionised Test cricket.
You know what I'm
But
more,
anyway,
and
we.
we are here to talk about yesterday's game as well, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But what irks me the most is um having India don't need to doctor pitches. Indian team is so good that they just don't need it. And it was evident by the fact that India put on 390 and a 98, 97 on what was supposed to be a slow pitch. And then New
And New
Zealand,
Zealand scored very well
it was
themselves.
724 runs in the game in a semi-final. And you're going to tell me that
Yep.
it was a slow pitch and difficult to bat on? Just shut up about it. I mean, it wasn't that hard.
Well,
The New Zealand just bowled badly in the first 10 overs. They were bowling short to Rohit Sharma. I mean, he's not a new player. How many times? What I was baffled by their plans. They had no plans to Rohit Sharma. They were just kept on bowling short on a small ground, on a smallish ground, on a good pitch. You just can't blame anyone else.
agree. And I didn't see a lot of that sort of talk in the second semi-final. That was a much slower, more difficult pitch to bat on at Kolkata. But it is. I think it because India weren't playing in that game. I think the narratives would have been very different. So I think, look, you're right. India deserve the credit for the tournament that they've had. If Australia produced that tournament at home, where they're so dominant in their 10 games and they're on to a final, we'd be praising the team. Same with England, same with anybody else. India have played by far the best cricket. Australia go into this World Cup final 8 games in a row that they've won. But there's such a gap right now between the quality of cricket that India are producing and the quality of cricket that we're producing. I'm proud of the team that, and I'm so happy that we're in a World Cup final. But we've had to grind our way to get there. India have dominated to get there. So I just think we just have to call it as it is. The impact that Rohit Sharma has had at the top, we talk about Virat Kohli and his 50th ton and how good he's been, 700 runs in a World Cup, the first ever player to do that in the Men's World Cup. But Rohit Sharma at the top, we talk about impact. We talk about impact. He set things up. And India have played as a team. They have a wonderful top 7, but they've played together as a team. And that's when you look at now for Australia, how they're going to overcome that juggernaut. It's like, okay, you think, oh, maybe India have a shaky lower order, but it's easier said than done to get to that lower order. It's going to be extremely difficult. Oh, India don't have a 6th bowler, but how are you going to deal with the first 5, know, who are all in amazing form? These are the questions Australia now face.
The talk of the town was Shami. You can't get away from him. Yeah. He's been absolutely brilliant. And that's the thing. That's what has been brilliant about this Indian team is everybody who has stepped on the field has contributed. Every single player. They know what their roles are. They know what they're doing. The talks about Virat Kohli's strike rate, I mean, that's just bizarre. He knows what he's doing. The team knows what he's doing. The team knows what they want out of Virat Kohli. He's freaking Virat Kohli. He's the greatest ODI batter of all time. We are peasants in front of him. And, as cricket fans, we just have to bow down to him and the greatness of Shami as well. The fact that Bumrah has been doing what he is doing and that enables Shami to come in and put more pressure on and get the wickets. That's not saying Shami is not a great bowler. He's a freaking beast at the moment. But that's the thing. Instead of giving credit where it's due to these players and the management and they've backed KL Rahul, they've backed Shreyas Iyer, you are finding ways to diminish the achievements of this team. Doesn't matter what happens in the final. Doesn't matter how they play, doesn't matter what goes on, it doesn't matter if Australia wins. What this team has
given. Hope they lose.
Sorry?
Hope you lose. I hope you lose.
I don't, but that's what I'm saying, Keith. That's what I'm saying, that what happens in the final won't be related to what's gone on so far. You know what I mean? Like, the team has given so much happiness to each and every Indian fan in the last month and a half. The way they've played, they've just annihilated opponents, when it comes to cricket, and they haven't given any statements outside the field. They haven't given any, bizarre interviews. They have just focused on cricket, and that's what they want to do. Blame the BCCI all you want, blame the management, blame the organization of the tournament all you want, but when it comes to the players, they don't need any advantage. They don't need any sort of push. They are playing out of their skin. They are playing fabulous cricket. And that's all I got to say.
Agree with you on the BCCI. They've got their faults. And we've been through that before. One of our recent episodes, we spoke about the organisation of the World Cup and the shortfalls of that and all that. When it comes to the Virat Kohli strike rate thing, I think it's just looking at the strike rate on the scoreboard or the strike rate in the leading run scorer charts and making a conclusion out of that, and not looking at sort of the impact and how it's helped the team. I put out a tweet yesterday. It was 50 ODI centuries, 42 have resulted in victories. So when it's resulting in a victory, it's clearly making the impact that it should to the team, because it's helping the team win.
And to that point, to your point, I got to absolutely give credit to what Rohit Sharma is doing as well. The fact that Virat Kohli can come in, take his time and see the innings through is because of what Rohit Sharma is doing. He is, when that first game happened, everyone was like, oh shit, what's this? We all knew Rohit Sharma can play like that, but it was still new Rohit Sharma because we had seen what has gone on in the last 12 months in T20s and his struggles and everything, and
Yeah.
then he was just there. Okay, I'm gonna go out there, probably my last World Cup, just enjoy it, punish the
Mm.
balls, punish bad balls, punish good balls, anything I can see, anything
I
I can
was
get my bat on, and it's not slogs, it's
I was
pure cricketing
expecting to
shots.
see that. I was expecting to see that in last year's T20 World Cup, if I'm being honest. And then I was
Yep.
quite surprised at how timid India were in the
Mm.
semi-final. And then, I mean, it's been like, nah, stuff that, we got to go.
Yep.
And absolutely agree with you, Rohit
And for the
Sharma.
first 3-4 games, I think people said, "Oh, that he can do that because having Shardul Thakur as the number 8 is helping him." But he has done that pretty much every single game. Not pretty much. He
Yeah.
has done that every single game.
And then that's the key. It's been working as a team and a unit. Everyone knows their role in the batting lineup. And that's, looking at the World Cup final now, we're previewing that. How is Australia going to win this? Well, uh, it's you're going to need to have the night of all nights from an Australian perspective,
Mm.
and admittedly, you're going to need India to be off,
Yep. Exactly.
even ever so slightly.
Yep.
You're going to need India to be off. Now, I look at this and I say, well, where Australia won yesterday, the semi final was a magnificent power play bowling performance. That's where Australia have lacked,
Do you mean from
impact in
South
this World
Africa or
Cup.
Australia?
Oh, mate, look, when we talk about credit, I'd like to give Hazelwood and Stark. I think South Africa were a bit timid. I think South Africa were a bit timid. They weren't great in that power play. Very nervous, I felt, but Australia bowled well. And if Hazelwood and Stark can find a little bit of nip and a little bit of movement at Ahmedabad, then it gives me some hope that we could reduce India to 3 down for 2 or something similar like we did at Chennai. That's what you have to do to give yourself a chance. You need to expose that middle order as soon as possible. You can't be given a platform to Shreyas Iyer, Rahul Suryakumar Yadav. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. You've got to find inroads early. That's easier said than done. But if Hazelwood can get that nip backer to Rohit Sharma, we're in business. If Stark can find that the right line and length and swing that ball back into the right-handers, we're in business. Of
Yep.
course, this is more hope than expectation from an Australian perspective. It's a very interesting position for an Australia fan to be in. I look at the last 3 ODI World Cup finals we've been in, 03, 07 and 15. Very big expectation to win all those 3 games.
Yep.
I went in thinking we're going to do it. This is
Look,
very different territory for us now.
I was just going to point that out because the very first point you made in the segment, what Australia got to do to win. I would rather say India, only team that can defeat India is pretty much India, to be honest. You know, when
Oh,
it
I don't
when it
know. Look, maybe,
well,
but,
no, no,
but, but
but
Australia have got those
let me
players
finish.
who
Let me
can
finish. What
produce.
the
That's what I'm
context to
saying.
that is? The context to that is, every single person who has stepped on the field, right from Rohit Sharma, Gill, Kohli, Rahul, Shreyas, everyone is in form. Everyone is scoring runs. Everyone knows what happens in this situation, what they want to do in whether they are 3 down for no runs, whether they are 3 down in the 45th over, they got 300 runs. Every situation is planned. And what I mean by that is, like you said, everyone has to have an off day. There's so many things that have to go wrong for Australia to win. This is my personal opinion because the way this team has
Mm.
performed, everyone has stepped up. For last game, Bumrah had an off day, and Shami said, "Okay, I'll do it," and he has been doing it for most games. But even though Bumrah didn't have the game he usually does at the top, Shami still did what he did, and that just goes to show that
Mm, mm.
everyone has each other's backs. And Shami dropped a catch, and Bumrah was like, "That's fine, happens." Even the crowd was like, "That's fine, happens. Move on, let's go." And that's been so
It's not
good to
bad when
see.
you got 397 on the board, though.
Exactly. But to be honest, I'll tell you, there was a point when I was like, I was almost
There
crying, I
was.
was almost on my knees, and it was like, oh, this can't be happening again. This can't be happening again. It's 1 a.m. Please give me some respite, please.
I talk about Australia needing good power play with both bat and ball, but as well in the middle overs, we have. I mean, to me, our most accomplished player against spin yesterday, in my opinion, in the semi-final was Josh Inglis. He's the least experienced player in the squad. He looked the best out of anyone when playing spin. He was the only guy that got forward. I couldn't believe Australia staying back to very full deliveries yesterday. It just gave me a lot of anxiety. In the end, can we say that Australia, thanks to Temba Bavuma's captaincy, to an extent, are in here? I'd say yes,
Horrible.
because the reason why I say that is you don't introduce Shamsi and Maharaj when the team's already scored nearly half the target. That is inexplicable.
You know what?
It's a topic for another day. My point is,
I would have started with Maharaj
go ahead.
or Aiden
I
Markram.
would have started at least with Markram.
Yep.
At least with Markram to the two lefties, and he got a wicket with his first ball, David Warner, but 60 already on the board. Anyway, but especially Maharaj and Shamsi to go that late. My point is that you're not going to have those respites, I don't think, at all with Rohit Sharma's captaincy and with India's bowling attack. They're all going to be on point. So how are Australia going to put the pressure back on India is going to be the big question. Now,
absolutely,
Australia have got those players, an absolute glorious performance on the night. And we're going to need someone or two or three players, I think, to produce outstanding displays with good support from the rest.
That's what you mean when you say, I agree with your point. If Australia is not going to get that respite from Rohit Sharma or from the Indian bowlers, because, starting with Siraj and Bumrah, then you got Shami, then you got Jadeja, then you got Kuldeep Yadav, and then you got the in swinging wrong-footed menace Virat Kohli.
The wicket takers, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma.
I mean, come on. I mean, it's just.
Look, I'll just enjoy. I'll enjoy today, and I'll enjoy tomorrow, and I'll enjoy Sunday up until 7:30 local time here in Sydney, and then
I still feel it's going to be a close one. I still feel India have to.
I hope so.
The hard yards, but it's going to be a close one.
I think India will have to play well. I think India will look at the one team that they probably didn't want in the final, and I think it was reflected in the Kolkata crowd yesterday, was Australia. Shane Watson mentioned that on commentary yesterday. He's like, maybe they don't want Australia in the final. But I think India would beat everyone else pretty well, and I think they're still favoured to beat Australia pretty well. But it's the one team that I think could cause them the most problems, even without all our faults, is Australia.
Well, even if even if Australia ends up losing, you have so many, excuses already. The toss was rigged, or the pitch, the pitch changed at the last minute. The pitch was changed, brought in from Chennai the day before, or
Australia controlled the ball.
There was
no one the ball with a remote.
Exactly, there was no one shouting Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. There was, there's no one played Advanced Australia Fair. There's no one play. I'm from land down under. There's so many things, excuses already going on.
What would be your excuse if what would be your excuse if you lose?
Oh, they played shit cricket. That's it. If India ends up playing well and they lose, credit to Australia. But if India end up playing poor cricket, I can assure you I would be the first one to call out. And you've known me. I'll never blame the pitch or never say this reason or that reason. India just played shit cricket. If that's the case, I'll call them out. And I know so many people on social media who would do the same, the sensible ones.
My point is, if India want to produce a difficult wicket, that could seriously backfire on them.
Exactly.
I've always said it.
How did people don't get that? That's exactly what I'm saying.
Tell me now, the last two pitches Australia have won test matches on in India. Tell me the characteristics of those pitches. Pune 2017 and Indore 2023. Rage turners, shockers for the batsman to deal with. Both of them had a poor rating. I think the Indore one was brought back, which I disagreed with. I thought it was a poor pitch. But you give the opposition spinners a leg up. No question.
Now, in this day and age with IPL, with so many leagues around, everyone has experience in playing in India. They know what they got to do. They know, especially when it comes to spin bowlers, they know they just have to land it on the spot. If it's a raging turner, the pitch will do the job.
say it's a challenging underbat surface. Josh Hazelwood, Mitch Stark, Cummins, these guys have got the ability to nip the ball around and cause problems. The Chennai surface, the first game of the World Cup that these two sides played, was a challenging pitch. India were 3 down for 2.
Yep.
If India are 3 down for not many, again in a final on a pitch that's doing a bit, it's a different ball game. That's where Australia have got to think. We start and put them under pressure. It's India's to lose. They have to win this. They haven't won an ICC trophy for 10 years. They've dominated this World Cup. The pressure's on them. Let's go out and have a dig. And I know Australia will. I'm sure they'll go out there and give it their all and play without fear. And that's what excites me in a way as well. If I'll just ask you a question, is there a player or a period of the game potentially that worries you? Where could Australia potentially cause India some problems?
Look, I think it is the power play. I would say it is the power play. Both power plays, I would say, because firstly, if again a situation arises where India 2 for 3, 10 for 3 or whatever in the power play, that just hampers what they've been doing so far in the tournament. Provided Virat Kohli still stays there till the end, I think that will just boost Kohli's profile, although he doesn't need any boost, but he can just stay out there, do the job, do the hard yards, and have someone like a KL Rahul or someone like a Shreyas Iyer with him till the end. I think a 275, I would say 300, 325 would be a good score against this Indian bowling attack.
Fantastic score.
But the flip side is, if Warner and Head end up giving a good start to Australia in the power play, then it's a lot to be desired from the
sides in the power play, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's the two best batting sides in the power play.
Exactly.
They go head to head. But I think while those power plays that I mentioned before, the power plays are bloody crucial for Australia to get right. But it doesn't end there. You need Zampa to step up. I thought he was under par in the semi-final. You need Zampa to step up. Your Maxwell's, even Travis Head if he's going to bowl. Cummins there in the middle. But also how we bloody play spin in the middle as well. We need to be proactive. Steve Smith, I thought yesterday, I couldn't believe the shot he played, by the way.
Horrible. That was really that was horrible.
I couldn't believe it, mate. I couldn't believe it. But just need him to be in a clear frame of mind, at his best. Use those feet that he's done so well with in India before. Get down the track, get to the pitch of the ball, keep things moving in the middle. If he can hold things together with Marnus, set up a platform there for the likes of Inglis and, of course, Maxwell to finish things off there towards the back end, we're a chance.
Exactly.
There's the players in there to cause some problems. I wouldn't say there's absolutely no hope. Of course, whether you rank outsiders, in my opinion, but you never know. So
what India got to do when Zampa comes on or into the attack is what they did with Mitchell Santner. Nothing, no wicket. Santner ended up with no wickets in the semi-final, and that even the Santner bowled well for given this runs that was scored. His economy was like I think 7 or 6 or 7 something.
It was only 5.
Yeah, I think he ended up giving.
No, he only went for 50 something in his
exactly. And that's what India have to do with Zampa. If he bowls bad, I think they have to take him to the cleaners. But if he's bowling well, just got to see him out, and have a plan and attack the other bowlers.
I think that's the thing. You can attack 1 or 2 other bowlers for Australia and force Cummins' hand to bowl more of maybe Mitch Marsh or Travis Head. And that being said, Travis Head's a good bowler, but if he's bowling to right-handers, what could be a pretty good surface, it's not easy for him to deal with against very high-class informed players where the top 6 or the top 5, 4 of them average over 50 in ODI cricket, and the other one is Rohit Sharma, who's very close to that, and he's one of the great ODI players. So it's a massive ask for Australia. There's no question about that. But we're there, and you've got to be in it to win it, and you give it your best shot, and it is Australia. You can never write us off. That was the narrative at the start of the tournament when, things were going to the shit. The shit hit the fan at the start. I tweeted today. I'm thinking back to when Sri Lanka were none for 125, and I'm thinking, we're in trouble. We look flat. It's been a big year, but mate, we've done
you can't blame them.
And
the Ashes were too close.
really well. It'll be
The Ashes were too close. That's what England has been saying, but
It,
that's why they lost.
that's England's excuse. It's funny. Australia were on the road, mate. Australia have been on the road all year with India tour and back in India for the World Cup. And look, I have to give credit to Pat Cummins before we round off. I have to give credit to Cummins. I was critical of the tactics in the Ashes, as you know, but I think he's done very well in this tournament. Yep. It's been a big year for him, both personally and in cricket, because he's captaining the side in the two formats. And there's been a lot of high octane, high pressure cricket away in India, away in England, and in a World Cup. He lost his mother as well this year. Yep. So what he's been doing for Australia, I think he's done well as a captain in this tournament. I think the tactics for the most part have been good. And of course, he's been really good with the bat down the order, playing some crucial little knocks there to get Australia home. So hopefully he'll be lifting the World Cup. Fingers crossed Australia do it. But, mate, India looking good.
No matter what happens, we'll be here doing this
Thanks,
again
Nash.
on Monday.
Thanks to all the listeners and the viewers. Yeah, we will. We'll review that. We'll review the World Cup final, man, which way it goes. So look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
See ya.